Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. Let's watch.
Mami, antes de que hagas la oración, I'm gonna tell my mom about your head.
Okay.
Gino se siente incómodo quitándose el sombrero para orar.
Okay, I've talked about this before, that for Gino, his hat is very important to him emotionally. And it's not just like, hey, I just like wearing a hat, let me wear a hat. It is a massive insecurity for him, which you might not be able to relate to, but we can all relate to having insecurities. And we know that a lot of people in life, in the world, and particularly on the show, will do a lot to alter and or cover up certain things about themselves physically that they are ashamed of, or that they just want to alter, they want to change, they want to accentuate certain things or cover up certain things. And we all understand that's pretty normal for people. It's not common, or it's not commonly talked about, the insecurity that many men have about being bald and the various different things that men will do to account for that. In fact, often it is ridiculed. It is, people make fun of it. But well, I guess people make fun of everyone along these lines. But I find that for some people, where they wouldn't make fun of a woman for, say, having hair extensions or dyeing their hair because they don't like it being gray, or, all the various different kind of common things that people will do, they won't necessarily ridicule that, but they will ridicule Gino with his hat, which at first you wonder, well, maybe he's just really particular about his hat and he needs to be more flexible. As the season is early on in the season, and particularly as the season has gone on, we have realized that for Gino, this is very important to him. He is extremely insecure. Now, you could say he has body dysmorphia around that, because Jasmine has literally told him, you look great. You're like Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is a sexy, famous guy who rocks a bald head, and so can you. But we also understand that dysmorphia and shame and insecurity is often impervious to outside information and is highly illogical and not necessarily rational. So we all understand that. And for him, he has this hat thing. And over time, I think Jasmine has adjusted well to it. At first, I was worried that she was going to make it a big issue, but she hasn't. They're visiting her mom right now, and Gino really wants to impress her. Jasmine really wants Gino to be accepted by Jasmine's family, and they're sitting down to eat, and they're having prayer. And now, so on the other side of this equation is, in a lot of cultures, including the United States, not only when you come into a house, but particularly when there's prayer or some ceremony of reverence, you're supposed to take your hat off, like with the national anthem, this kind of thing. And it is an act of disrespect to keep your hat on. It's an act of blasphemy, perhaps. I don't know what Jasmine's family feels about that, but at the very least, it could be rude, and to wear a hat during that, also to wear a hat at the dinner table. I grew up in a family where there were dinner manners. You didn't put your elbow on the table, you didn't talk about certain things, and you certainly did not wear hats at the table. Now, I don't know why he's wearing this wide-brimmed hat instead of, I guess maybe it's a fancier hat to him, but somehow I think that makes it kind of worse because it's so, I wish he kind of had a hat that was a smaller profile, because I think it would feel less disrespectful, at least to me anyway. So everyone's allowed to have these beliefs and these sensitivities. Jasmine probably should have talked with her mom prior to them arriving and say, look, I just want you to know, Gino has this insecurity about his hat. It's weird, but it's very particular to him, and it's not just like he's just wearing it. He's just kind of insecure about his balding head, or his bald head. He's like extremely insecure about it. it's like being naked for him. And so he wears this hat, and I've tried to get him to not wear the hat. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't bring it up, or if you didn't bother him about it, and don't feel hurt that he doesn't take his hat off. He's got some insecurities, and I'm trying to help him with it, but it is what it is, and this is who he is. But instead, they're doing it right now, which is also okay. Instead of waiting for the mom to get upset, Jasmine is now going to have a conversation with the mom, and let's see how they manage it.
I have some concerns about Jasmine's mom liking me, but I'm just not comfortable taking my hat off. I feel that things are piling up against me.
Now, another aspect of this, I'm just thinking if I were in Gino's shoes, I would get out ahead of this and say, Jasmine's mom, I know it's disrespectful. I'm wearing this hat. I'm terribly sorry, but I have to tell you, I have bordering on a mental illness regarding my head and the shame I feel. And so he can absolutely just come out ahead of that and explain. I don't know how much English the mom understands, but at the very least, he could assert that and ask for forgiveness along these lines. But anyway, let's see how this works out.
And I believe it's going to be hard to get her mom's blessing tonight.
No sé, Jasmine.
Okay, I don't know. This show edits it so heavily. I wish they would just have a camera in the corner, just show us what happened, because I have a hard time. There's all these interstitials and music and weird cuts and stuff, so I don't really know what happened there. But it sounded like Jasmine barely explained it and just said, he likes to wear his hat at the table or something like that. Instead of, look, you don't understand. He's got a thing about this hat, and I'm so sorry. Just more. But I don't know if that didn't happen, because the way that they edit this show frequently is just a lot of people staring at each other, and I'm positive that they take shots, while someone is, Gino is being more verbal, and the mom is just kind of listening, and they cut out Gino talking, and they keep the mom just looking quizzically, and so it's hard for me to know what exactly happened. But regardless of what happened, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a lot of communication and not a lot of giving the mom an opportunity to understand.
Mami, antes de que hagas la oración, Gino se siente incómodo quitándose el sombrero para orar.
Right. She should probably say a little bit more. Gino could add to that, because if you just say that to the mom, I think the mom's going to be like, well, I don't know, take your hat off. I don't care if you're uncomfortable. It's rude. So hopefully they can tell the mom more.
No sé, Jasmine. Si eres feliz así, okay. She says that doesn't matter. You can wear your hat. Okay, so.
Okay, so I mean, I didn't include all this, but the show edited in all these like disapproving faces and silences, and then we had a commercial break, and we went to other couples, and now we're back with Gino and Jasmine. So and I'm sure when you watch this online, there's like it's 25 minutes of time where you're like, what's going to happen? And then the mom just says, it's fine. I mean, just show us what happened. Because I'm guessing that in this conversation, there's a lot of interesting things that happened. Maybe not super dramatic things or conflict-ridden things, but things that could happen. And they just wasted a lot of our time in the show by inserting all this stupid silence and manufactured disapproval face when it was clear that none of that things happened, because she just says, yeah, that's fine. Wear your hat. I don't care. Moving on in life. So I've been frustrated by this from the beginning, and sometimes I talk about it, but then I often will edit out, because I just feel like y'all don't want to hear me rail about the editing of this show. But I will tell you that I am here trying to figure out what's actually happening. And now, why do I care? Well, because I care about them, and I'm also just curious, and I'm also trying to translate things. Because one of the greatest things that I never realized about reality TV is that clinically it does provide us an example of something that we can bounce off of and talk about real clinical issues. And one of the things that I've been frustrated with my entire career, and other professors as well, for the past 25 years, is that there's not a lot of good examples of actual human beings in the clinical video library. You know, commonly we might have therapists, world-renowned therapists that will be doing therapy, and they'll get a couple, for example, to sign a waiver saying it's okay to publish their therapy sessions in a training video or something. So we get that sometimes. A lot of times they're role players, though. They're actors, because there's some ethical concerns about asking a client to publicly publish their therapy sessions. Plus, what if something kind of goes wrong? What if the person dies of suicide later and they say it was because they were exposed in these videos? And so it's just one of those liabilities that you just don't want to get into often. And so there's not a lot of good examples of real human beings interacting from their heart. And reality TV provides us that. But we can only do that if we see what actually happens. And so if a show completely discombobulates the events, then I'm trying to decipher. It's like I'm Da Vinci Code. I'm like, okay, I saw this scene, I saw that facial expression probably wasn't there. That was probably 5 minutes later. I have to take out all the silence. I have to piece together reality in my head from assuming that the editors are going to manipulate it to try to make it look a certain way. And so it's this secret code, you know. I'm also trying to get into the mind of the editor. You know, I'm trying to imagine what really happened. Imagine an editor looking at that. Imagine producer sitting over, you know, hey, string that out, you know, and then I have to keep all that in my head while I'm trying to figure out what really happened, so that I can use real human beings and their lives, as they're publishing them on television, to talk about how we can learn things. Because I can't learn things from an editor's lie. I'm just going to say, you know, if an editor is going to deceive me, that doesn't tell me anything about human experience. That's essentially like a scripted situation. It's just like a false fictional scenario. And thus, I shouldn't be watching it because it's not real. So this is just me ranting about it. I often am thinking this. I rarely talk about it. And often I will edit it out. If this is included in a video, it's because in the 1% of the time I actually decided to include my rant about this. But anyway.
Muchas bueno.
Muy bueno.
Muy, right? Excuse me. So did Jasmine have a lot of boyfriends when she was growing up?
Okay. So 1, fine, you're curious about that. 2, are you gonna get triggered by this? 3, does Jasmine want to talk about this? 4, is this the first question you ask your future mother-in-law? I mean, particularly in certain cultures, I don't know about Panama, but it could be really insulting to bring this up at this early juncture. Like, why are you doing this?
Dice que por qué si yo soy tan bonita y que si no tenía muchos hombres detrás de mí.
Porque yo siento que cuando ella estaba adolescente, yo tenía poder sobre ella y yo no le permitía a ella tener novio.
So, I have hypothesized that Jasmine has some relational traumas that are being triggered by Gino's behavior. Now, the nude picture, I think her reaction was commensurate with the situation, and that wasn't a past trauma being, transferred to the present. It seemed totally rational to be that upset and hurt. But there were other times, like with the painting and the decor of his home and how she reacted to his response, you know, because he didn't say, I'm not going to change my apartment. He just says, I don't see why you have to talk ill of people in my past, and I kind of like those colors. He, you know, so anyway, we saw her reaction to that, and I hypothesized that she has some relational traumas, probably early. The way she was reacting, it looked like it was early childhood trauma regarding abandonment and betrayal and lies. And we are now meeting the mom. We don't know what all the caregivers were like. I don't know if the mom was a single mom or there were other caregivers for Jasmine, but we are seeing a little bit about the mom, that she, I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say, at least in this context, we don't know if this is generalizable to her personality, but in this context, she's very blunted and subdued and quiet and slow and careful and unaffected and stoic, I guess is aloof, maybe is a better word. This might just be because of this. It could be because of the cameras. It could be because she doesn't like Gino, which she would have reasons to be, I don't know, skeptical at the very least. Or is this indicative of the way she parented Jasmine? I mean, there's no way to know that, but it's just something to think about.
No se lo permitía.
She said that yes, she's super strict, and she didn't let me have any boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Vamos a ir cambiando ya.
The mom is saying I was super strict. They didn't let her. We don't know what that means. Was that just appropriate strictness? Is it pathological strictness? You know, there's no data there. And I'm guessing we're not going to get it because the show doesn't usually go into that.
El tema, por favor. Jasmine, ella es muy desenvuelta, es muy luchadora. Ya, mami, terminamos aquí.
Sí, mami.
Okay, we're learning a little bit about at least the way the mom sees Jasmine. She's saying that she's a fighter and she's uninhibited. Yeah, I think those are two very appropriate words. We saw that as well.
Pero es mi primera hija. En esta versión yo soy muy sobreprotectora porque los hijos uno los ve que aunque crezcan uno los sigue viendo como niños.
Okay, and we've heard this word overprotective being thrown around, and it can mean a lot of different things. For some people, it could just mean being a normal parent and caring about your kids. For other people, it could mean overly restrictive and even abusive. I don't know what, where they are on that spectrum or the other possibilities they are when they say that word overprotective. All right, well, if you want to support what we're doing here, there is one thing you can do, which is become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. There should be a link below. You can also just go to patreon.com and search for Psychology in Seattle. When you become a patron, you are absolutely supporting us in our efforts to continue to put out these videos. So that's the best way. If you really want to put your support behind this thing, then become a patron. But only if you want to and only if you can afford to. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.